Peace and blessings and much love to one and all. Many brothers and others have asked me to speak about this supposed sacrificing to Baphomet and Lucifer and all the stuff allegedly going on in the hip hop community today. And the other part was the profit margins that executives in the upper echelon of the so-called industry are realizing off of and subsequent to the slaughter of black men by other black men. So let me start with the latter first. Oh boy. The first thing about the profits that people are seeing off of selling units and streams with serial killer music, as I like to call it, has nothing to do with the industry. So let me give you an example. If country songwriters and country performers were writing songs about slaughtering other songwriters and performers, and then actually going out and doing it and slaughtering one another, anywhere close to the numbers that we are, the same executives would be making a killing off of that as well. It's shock value, and shock value sells, right? That's the first thing. The second thing is, I'm old enough to remember back in the days when we had people like Father MC and MC Hammer and the like that we would talk bad about, when we were really doing the prison cases and really watching the brains, getting blown out of people's heads in the streets of Milwaukee and Chicago and later in Minneapolis. It was sort of, offensive that people would, write songs about the horrors and the life that we navigated through, but they weren't part of it. And so they were just talking from an objective point of view, I guess, but it was offensive. And so we sort of have to take responsibility for putting a lot of pressure on the industry to keep it authentic and keep it real, as it were. So NWA answered that, right? And so they were the ones that converted hip hop into this serial killer music. That would be your Ice Cubes and your Dr. Dre's and your DJ Yella and and after that came the whole West Coast invasion with Corrupt and Daz and Snoop and Mac 10 and the like. And then you had the pimps, K9 and Sugar Free and cats like that. So, hip hop isn't, the record execs aren't responsible for the killing. They're simply capitalizing off of our foolishness. You had Ice Lords and gangsters and Black Stone Rangers in the 50s. Let's not be idiots here. And you had Crips and Bloods in the 70s. And before that, you go to Nigeria right now and talk to the Biafra, the Igbo, and they're banging on a level that we could never fathom. In Africa right now, the Fulani and the Igbo and the Yoruba, right? You go to Ghana, the Democratic Republic of Congo, the 5 clans of Somalia, and the like. So Africa has never been united. How else could 100,000 white men conquer 2 billion black men? We have always hated one another. We have never been united. We have always... I was talking to a sister named Kara on Facebook just the other day about a common friend of ours who was her man, and he was going through a domestic violence sort of, we call it sucker stroke, and crashed out this girl's window and all kind of stuff, right? So here comes this Tyrone guy that I went to school with. I was in the 8th grade with this dude. I always thought he was pretty cool. And he gets on there. I got nothing to do with it. I'm in Atlanta, right? And so this guy, who I saw probably twice 12, 13 years ago, maybe. And, before that, I hadn't seen him since the 8th grade. And, we were cool in the 8th grade. I actually broke my toe in metal shop competing with this dude. He was a big guy. I was always strong and little. And, I actually think I won that. But I dropped the pipes that we were lifting, showing off for the girls on my toe. So Tyrone and I always thought we were cool. So here he comes. He chimes in on a Facebook thing, right? And he's talking about how weird I'm supposed to be, and I don't think women are anything, and just really just a super kind of, he's had a different kind of sucker stroke, right? And so my point is that he's carried this hatred for me since the 8th grade. Just think about that. I mean, I'm somebody to hate now, so I get it, right? But it just denotes the vitriol and the overt or covert, the outward or clandestine hatred that for some reason Black people seem to instinctually have for one another. So to the larger point that I'm trying to make is Black people have always slaughtered each other, and the record industry has nothing to do with that. Okay, Martin Luther King has everything to do with that today. I'm finishing up a book now called The Moses King. If you're looking for that, where we're going to break that down, the era of the monster and the travails of integrating with your oppressor. I think it's Proverbs 31:3 that says, envy not your oppressor and want none of his ways. And Martin Luther King was the antithesis of the word of God. His philosophy on how we should handle our oppression was completely antithetical to God's word. So be looking for that. And we use about 300 scriptures to prove it. So the industry has nothing to do with, I'll call you in a minute, Zippy. The industry has nothing to do with what Black men are doing to Black men. What you have here is the age of the monster, okay? And you have monsters now, sociopaths and psychopathic serial killers, right? That's what we're glorifying these days with this Southern trap crap, as I like to call it. Out east, on the East Coast of the Midwest in the 70s and the 80s, it was Melly Mel and Run DMC and Wake Up and, you know what I'm saying, Sucker MC. And, we had KRS-One and Rakim and BDP. But even then, you had Eric Sherman and Boogie Down Production shooting at each other. I think LL Cool J's managers shot and killed some of New Edition's managers or something like that. Scott LaRock got his head blown off. So the industry has nothing to do with our serial killer mentality as it relates to one another. Okay? It's our culture. It's a very strange, anomalous thing that the world has never seen, how we're so self-destructive and how we hate one another. And we carry this hate like Tyrone been carrying around for me for all these years, and I might see the guy. We got mutual associates in our circle. So you just got to be on guard. I never knew he felt that way about me. So, I mean, he can get it like everybody else and there we go. Because one thing he didn't do was ever say anything crazy in my face because he knew that wouldn't have ended well. So this is that sort of clandestine, sneaky, right? So I'm not defending the industry. I remember back in the days, a brother named Lucky, there was this record label called Lucky Tone Records I was part of. So we got this call from these marketing engineers, right? And these marketing engineers taught us, we didn't have a clue what they were and what they were talking about, but they were a marketing psychologist and marketing scientists, for crying out loud. So there's a science to marketing. And so the mind of Black people, for some reason, is so marketable, and we're so gullible, and we have appetites for such nonsense and foolishness. And that sort of fuels and perpetuates the serial killer mentality. Make no bones about it. What you're dealing with here are serial killers, right? You're dealing with young black African American serial killers, sociopaths that really have, look in the prisons today. They'll get 35 years to life and jump around and wrestling and playing with their friends, right? They don't, the impact, the severity, the sting of life in prison misses them. They really don't care about life in prison. They really don't care about killing children. They just don't care. They sincerely don't care. Okay, that's called a monster, right? And the white man has nothing to do with that. Boko Haram in Nigeria and west coast of Africa, they have no problem going into an African village and kidnapping 300-400 girls and doing all kind of dastardly things to them and castrating little boys and cutting people's heads off. And I do not know a time in African history where that was not the case. So whether you call it Anaxum or Pangea or whatever, show me, please tell me a time, demonstrate to me a time where Africa was united and we were this harmonious people. I was just talking to the sister Kara about that yesterday, in fact, how this delusional revisionist history that we have is foolishness. So the industry is definitely capitalizing on our serial killer mentality because it's shock value and serial killers sell ratings for news programs. Serial killers and their life stories sell books and movies. And of course, serial killers sell units in streams and downloads in music. So if we don't like the Lear Cohens and our Jewish brothers capitalizing off of our generational serial killing acceptance, then we need to knock it off. But let's not be a dumbass and think that somehow record execs are making us kill each other. That's just not the case. We enjoy killing each other. And these songs are serial killer songs, okay? That's that. Now, as it relates to this satanic sacrifice kick everyone is on, let me explain this to you as briefly as I can, because it's so foolish, I don't want to spend a lot of time on it. The first thing is, if you don't understand how the spiritual realm works, then you should shut up. Okay, we don't want to promote dumbasses. This is how we got here, right? People die, and just because someone is related to or affiliated with a rapper doesn't mean they were sacrificed. I think it's Matthew chapter 4, 1 through 11 that deals with Jesus. His name is Yeshua HaMashiach, but Jesus was tempted by the devil. There we can see sort of the mechanics of this whole bow to Satan and this is the reward for that thing. The problem with that is you were dealing with a pseudo God. You were dealing with a fallen angel trying to trick the God out of his godship, for lack of better terminology. It didn't end well for Satan, of course. But that's a completely different thing than what the idiots are saying about hip hop. There is no unbank or soul cashing place where you can walk in and throw your uncle on there and, hey, I want to sacrifice my uncle and give me $1 million. You know, that it just doesn't happen. But what is happening, again, is the marketing science. Right? Like this Lil Nas guy. I never took it serious until a couple of weeks ago. And I was telling somebody that I would look into it, and I just never took it serious because it's ridiculous. And I spend my time writing books and researching much more serious matters. Okay, so let me get you together real quick. The first things first, Satan isn't red. Okay? He doesn't have little horns and a pitchfork and a pointy tail, dumbass. Okay? The Grammys. They sent me a bunch of film on the Grammys, this recent Grammys, talking about Sam Smith, I think his name is, right? And he's got this red suit on, and and all this, and everybody's like, see, minister, they're worshiping the devil, and I couldn't help myself. You have to tailor your vernacular to the audience that you're talking to. So, based on that, the audience that I was talking to, I said, "You're a dumbass." Okay, Satan isn't red. He doesn't have horns like that, and he doesn't have a pitchfork and a pointy tail. Who taught you that? Okay, you're so gullible and so stupid. That's like thinking that Jesus is this weird looking hippie with strawberry blonde hair and blue eyes. You know what I mean? Shoulder length hair or something. The image embedded in your mind of Jesus is a complete lie. White supremacist nonsense, right? So the first thing is, we're a nation of dumbasses. Okay, let's start there. And we don't believe in much except rappers and entertainers, right? Malcolm X once said, "We're the only people that look to entertainers and athletes for life coaching." It's embarrassing, okay? I don't really give a damn what any rapper is talking about, period. The reason that I really support the likes of a Jay-Z and a Beyonce is the look that they are for my people, and the options that they had, and the choices that they made, contrary to those options. I think they're a good look economically, they're a good look sociologically, and so that's why they're hated, right? I think I think Jesus is first, Jay-Z is second, and I'm third. I'm talking about, I got so many haters. It's like, wow, I wouldn't know what to do if I didn't have haters. And if I've had so many haters for so long, and I don't even know that they're haters, right? Like the other day with Tyrone, what up, Ty? I don't hate you, man. That's your thing, baby. I love you, man, since the 8th grade, hater. But anyway, so that's the thing. There's no metric where you can go and sell somebody's souls. I think it's Psalms 106:37 that deals with sacrifice. Jeremiah 19:5, 1 Corinthians 10:20, I believe. Look those scriptures up, if you would. So sacrificing has always been. You got the Asatruths and your Wiccans, you got your voodoo in Africa, you got your, the Bible talks about Baal and sacrificing children to Baal and Molech and all of this stuff. So it's always been there. However, the mechanics that they're trying to say exist in hip hop today just isn't so.